Hello everybody, welcome to another one of our Driving Gem lockdown videos. We are in an Audi Q5 today, which I'll come back to in a second. Kat is at the wheel.
Hello.
There we go. And we are about 30 seconds from Alton Park. So in a minute you will see the arch for Lodge Corner, which is on our doorstep here. So we're going to go left at the end here. So the reason we're in an Audi Q5 is we thought we would talk about smoothness and some of the techniques that we use to improve your smoothness when you're driving, whether it's on road or track. And the reason we're using an SUV is because there's more weight and it moves around more because it's sat higher up with a higher centre of gravity. So with a stiff sort of track-based car like a GT car, the same things apply, but obviously it's a little bit less obvious than it is in an SUV. So why is it important to be smooth? So every input you make into the car while you're driving moves the weight of the car around on the suspension, which then directly affects your tyre grip. So if you imagine that when you're sat still, you've got an equal amount of weight and therefore grip at each corner of the car. I know technically that might not be the case, but think of it theoretically. As soon as you put an input into the car, like accelerate off, what happens is the weight moves around. So when you accelerate, the weight moves backwards. That pushes the rear tyres more into the road and creates more grip, but it takes it away from the front, so you're moving the weight around. When you steer, the same thing happens. So when you steer to the left, for example, as we're about to do, what happens is the weight starts to move across to the right, so you end up with more grip on the right-hand side of the car than you do on the left. Now the reason you need to do that smoothly is if you talk to a tyre engineer, it takes a tyre about 0.2, 0.3 of a second to actually react to what you asked of it. So if you do things suddenly and quickly, you're not giving the tyre a chance to grip. And where that tends to show up is what people will tend to do is if their steering input is a little bit sharp, the car doesn't react, so they've then put more steering input in, so the car then isn't quite reacting the way you want it to do. So to get around that, what we do is we introduce a thing called hinting. And what hinting is, it's just a little bit of your next input before you actually do it. So if you're going to turn left, you put a little bit of left-hand steering in, a tiny amount, which just has the effect of waking the tyres and starting to move the suspension. So we're coming to some fairly sharp corners here, so we'll try and demonstrate that. So we look across at the steering, so you'll see that it's not a sudden movement. What you'll find is Cat goes from straight ahead, so we're going to come to another corner here in a second. So we're going to go left, so you get a little bit of input in, there we go, just a little input, and then the main input comes afterwards. So same again, so little input and then the main input comes afterwards. So it's very subtle, but it has the effect of just, as I say, waking everything up. Now the same thing happens with the brake. So if we approach a corner that we need to brake for, if I go down to the pedal box, we're on the throttle at the moment, so you get a little input, then the meat of the braking, and then the same when you return. It's just a little gentle off, and then back to the throttle. And that works whether you're on the road or on the track. Now, generally what people will say to you is, yeah, but on the track you're doing things more quickly. Yes, the car's moving more quickly, but what you do as a driver should still be the same. It should still be smooth and progressive, and you'll find that if you're working the car more gently up to the limit of the car will actually feel like it's higher. We quite often sit with people who make a car reach the limit earlier than it needed to because their inputs are not smooth enough. So go away and practice that, just those little inputs before your main inputs. Let us know how you feel about it. Okay, thank you for listening.